Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are watching on YouTube, well, welcome to my channel. If you are listening on Substack or via podcast, welcome back to the Shamanic Womb Oracle podcast. My name is Shannon, and I am a shamanic practitioner. I specialize in womb shamanic work and in soul healing work. And I have made it my life mission to share shamanic work with the collective, with the people who decide to work with me, with anyone who listens to me, on my podcast or watches any YouTube videos when I make them, or, anyone who comes into my sphere at all on some way, shape, or form. I share the shamanic way of life. And this is such a deep mission for me. It's something I've been called to for a lot of my life. And for me, it's something that is as natural as breathing, honestly. I have absolutely tried to walk away from this before. More than once, honestly, tried to say, let me just be done offering soul work, shamanic work. Let me just do it for myself and not share it with the collective, not share it with anybody else. Besides maybe like my loved ones, like let me go, do a normal job and live a normal life. And every time that idea has come through to me, even when I've thought about tried to follow it a little bit more, I get an immediate blockage, nope, and redirect and connect it back into my mission, which is to share this work and to guide people back home to themselves. And that is how I think of the work that I do. Everyone that I get the honor to work with, really what we are doing at the deepest layer of our work is we are working together to guide them back home to themselves, to help that person, each person I work with, help them find their home within themselves again. And home within self, when we are home within ourselves, we are open to, we are listening to our body, we are embodied in our energy field and in our body. And we are open to hearing and understanding our spiritual gifts, our energetic gifts, our purpose, why we're here, who we are here to be. Sometimes what we're here to do, but doing is the least important thing. It's really who are you here to be? Purpose is about who you're here to be and what you're here to share. Anyway, I wanted today to talk about why we do this work. Why do we do spiritual work? Why has spiritual work and shamanic work especially existed for so long? Because it has. Shamanic work is likely the oldest form of healing work that exists in our world. Shamanism has been passed down for thousands of years. And it is a deeply ancestral based practice. When I teach apprentices how to connect in with their shamanic lineages, we are deeply working with their ancestors, and that looks a little different for everybody. Everyone's lineage is different and ancestors are different, but we are working with their ancestors. We are working with our common ancestors, like the collective ancestors. We are working with our DNA. We are working with ourselves. We are working with all the energy of the earth, and the earth holds our collective, whole human ancestry within her codes, within her memory, within the rocks and the trees and the animals and the plants. Our ancestral legacies are held in these places. And shamanic work and the shamanic path, especially when you are walking in an apprenticeship, walking into this path of learning how to find and understand your shamanic medicine and share it with the world in whatever way that you are called to, is so much about learning how to listen and connect into the shamanic energy of the land and connect into the energy of the body and the womb. The womb is our mirror to creation, to Mother God, to Mother Father God up above us, the cosmic womb, the goddess, the God, however you want to think of them, Mother, Father, however you want to think of the universal energy. Our womb is our connection there. And so, anyway, what I wanted to talk about and offer is some thoughts on why we do this work, right? Why this work has lasted for so long, why it has continued to be passed down, why it exists, why we do it, why we're here, why we're called to it, right? I know that I quite consistently meet people who find me and come to me for shamanic work, and they're like, I've never considered shamanic work before. I've looked at other spiritual things, like I've had some Reiki done, or like, I've gone to a sound bowl healing or whatever it might be. I do yoga, but they're like, I need something deeper. And I found you, and I found shamanic work, and I don't totally understand why it's such a calling, but I feel pulled towards shamanic work. Like, why do we feel called to this work? Why does it exist? Why does it continue to be passed on? So I have a lot of answers for you. I have a lot of things to bring into the field for you to consider and digest and see what is potentially the truest for you. Because I think we all do have slightly different reasons why we come to this work. But in essence, why we come to this work is because we want to remember. And shamanic work is like I've said, I know like 3 times now, is the oldest form of spiritual work. There is a remembrance in the shamanic path, in shamanic healing, in this kind of soul healing, womb healing, based on the shamanic principles. There's a remembrance, and it's like a soul level remembrance. It's a DNA level remembrance. We remember, we feel the connection that our ancestors, maybe like far, 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 far back, but our ancestors had this connection to their shamanic practices. And those practices look a little different, obviously, culture to culture, but there's a lot of similarities that are passed down because it's a universal field. It's a collective field. The field of shamanic work, shamanic healing, shamanic studies, shamanic exploration. It's a field of collective remembrance. And when we're called to it, when we are called to this spiritual work, to this very specific, like shamanic spiritual work, because I can't speak to all the other kinds of spiritual work as deep as I can speak to this. When we're called to shamanic spiritual work, it's because we are called to remember ourselves, to remember our ancestors, to remember our roots, not just in our lineage, but also our roots to the earth, our roots in these bodies, right? Why we are here, our bodies hold so much memory. There's something like 90% of our DNA, scientists say, is like, they can't figure out what it does, right? It's like junk DNA or non-coding DNA. That's what they call it, because they can't figure out what it does. It's memory. It's connection into the collective. It's connection to the lineage. And not just the lineage of like the human body that you're in right now, like the lineage of all the bodies you have ever lived in, the lineage of just the collective human species in general, the lineages of our star connections, our star ancestries. It is memory. And shamanic work, shamanic practices connect us back into the memory. The memory that we are here to be whole. The memory that we are here to be safe in our embodied experience. The memory that we are here to not just sit behind a desk for 40 hours a week and like plug away at a computer, but we are here to be a living, breathing part of the organism of Earth. And maybe we have to do some of listening behind the desk, right? But then when we don't have to be there, we are here to be living and breathing with earth, part of the earth. And so something I notice quite often is people come to me when they've already explored other spiritual things. I don't super often have the experience of someone coming to me who is brand new into like spiritual work. Most people who come to me have done spiritual work before. A lot of them have also like done some like more conventional methods, like going to therapy and things like that. A lot of people who come to me have, like I mentioned, like they've done yoga, they go to sound baths, or they meditate, or they've gotten Reiki, like they've done things like that, and then they've done like therapy, and they've done self-inquiry, like they're aware, like they're connected into themselves to an extent, but they're looking for something deeper, and then they find me and they find the shamanic, just reading about shamanic work or listening to me talk about it. They're like, yeah, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. And it's not always like, I mean, it's almost never like a logical, like, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for. It's an embodied feeling. That's what I'm looking for. Because shamanic work, and especially this, like I think I said at the beginning of this video, I really see the work I do, specifically the way that I offer my medicine, offer the medicine of my experience, my training, my lineage, my connection to earth, to the stars, the womb. It comes down to a medicine of homecoming, coming home to yourself. And we're looking for something more ancient and embodied than these practices that are newer. Right? We're looking for something that's been around, that our lineage, that like not just our lineage, but our DNA, our cells remember. They remember. Our cells, our DNA, they don't remember these newer practices. They've been part of our collective for a long time. When we're ready to go deeper, we're called in shamanic work so often. That's what happened for me. I've been involved in spiritual practices most of my life. I did so many different things. I tried so many different like modalities, learned many different things before I felt the pull and the call to find a shamanic teacher. When I found the shamanic teacher and I did my apprenticeships, everything anchored in, just like deep embodiment. It went from my mind, like my crown and my third eye, like holding this connection to spirit, to my sacral, my womb, my tailbone, my root. That's where it's held. I'm like, it can sit into my body with my connection to spirit. And that was weird to get used to. Sometimes it still is weird to conceptualize. As that started happening more and more, I had conversations with my teacher, and I said to her, I feel like I don't hear spirit like I used to. Like I used to just like constantly have this, like these voices like of spirit, like I guess not constantly, because I learned very, very early on to have very strong boundaries and practices and protection, to know who I was talking to in channeling, which is a big issue that I see out in the general kind of spiritual world. It's not a lot of discernment around who we're talking to. But I said to my teacher, when I connected in, I used to just like have so much come into my crown, come into my third eye. And now I don't receive in that way anymore. Not as much. I do sometimes, but I don't receive, like, it's not just up here. It's like, it comes down into my body, and it comes into my system, and it comes into my womb, and it like gestates and digests. And my connection to spirit is just like, it's not just coming in through my upper chakras, it's coming in through my whole body. So when I receive, when I do channel, which is something that I do very, very intentionally, I'm very connected in with like those practices of protection and who are we talking to and all those things. It's like my whole body is channeling, right? It's not just like my mind. I thought mind is not the right word because it was never, it's not just my crown, my third eye. It's not just my upper chakras. It's not just very heady. That's what I want. Anyway, shamanic work calls us in when we're ready to get out of the heady and into our body and come home. Because mind is not home, head is not home, body, womb is home. And yeah, so why are we called to this? It's memory. We're called into the memory of our deepening. Our cells hold the memory of what our ancestors used to connect into, what they've always connected into, and we're called into the practices that will bring us home. Why do we need those practices? Why do we need practices to bring us home? I mean, first and foremost, I think the easy answer is look at the world around us. Look at how many humans are not home in themselves. Not, and that's before we even consider or talk about like the larger scale like devastation and atrocities we see happening in the world. But on an individual level, how many humans are actually home in themselves? Very few. Very, very, very few. How many people are in their bodies? Not a lot. At this point, I've been doing this work so long that I feel like one of my kind of like little quick intuitive superpowers is I can tell when I meet somebody how much they're in their body. And most people I meet, they're up here. They're not down here. If I start talking about womb, they're like, you know, or root or being in the body, they like go right back up to like the stories, the mental like patterns, stories, the heady ideas. And I'm like, get in the body, you know, even just in a conversation. I'm like trying to talk to somebody. We're not trying to do shamanic work. They may not even know what I do. I can tell. I can just feel like if someone's talking to me, they're up here, they're not down here. And when I say down here, I'm touching my belly. Can't see that on the video. That's the majority of our population. We're disassociated, we're disembodied. When I first started deepening into my spiritual practices, I learned very quickly that I was so dissociated. I was like floating up above my head somewhere. And one of the first practices I started doing every single day, because this was like when I started making my spiritual practices like a consistent thing. Like I've been involved and connected to spiritual practices for most of my childhood even, but when I actually like came into it, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna explore this for myself. So I noticed I'm like way up here. I'm like floating above my head. One of the first things that I had to start doing was pulling myself into my body every day. And this is still something that I have clients do all the time. Especially at the beginning of our work together when we're getting them in their body. Pull your energy into your body. Sit back into your field. Sit back into your body. We don't live in a world that encourages being home in the body. I mean, think about our social media. Think about scrolling. That is very heady, right? That is not, scrolling does not come from womb or root. It does not come from being in the body. It comes from being in the mind. No judgment on that, by the way. I scroll too. Try not to, but I do. That's not an embodied activity. That is not the activity that we do when we are in our bodies. That's the activity we do when we are dissociating in our mind. And we're just like, whoa, like we can't stay connected or, we can't stay connected or grounded into the here and now. We scroll, right? Not a great way to keep us in our body. In fact, I would argue that social media and scrolling has the exact opposite intention, even of getting us out of our bodies. Because when we're in our bodies, our lives change. And we become so much less interested in all the BS going on in the world, like all the conditioning going on in the world, right? we become so much more interested in actually like bringing change into the world and not following the conditioning of the systems. And that's not great. That's not great for those who want the systems to stay, right? So it's a whole other conversation. And I shouldn't get sidetracked right now. We come to this work. Why do we come to, sorry, coming back, just a reminder, question is really, why do we come to this work? What is the point of this work? To bring you home to yourself, to bring you home to your body, to who you are. Who are you? Who you think you are in your mind is not who you are when you are in your body, when you are in your soul, when you are connected into purpose, soul purpose, higher self, if you want to call it that, or your soul energy. When you're connected into soul and you're not living from mind, you're a very different person. The person who you are, like who you think you are in your mind, and that's the person where, like, those are your identities, your ego identities, like the way that you tell people, oh, this is who I am, and this is that, those things, those are mind. Those are not body. Those are not coming from the body. Those are coming from the ego mind. And some of them are, you know, are helpful for when you first meet people. I mean, I have some things that I say of like, oh, okay, this is who I am, because people ask that question. And, you know, I introduced myself as, you know, this is who I am, or this is the work I do at the beginning of this video. So, you know, I'm not saying all identity is bad, right? But I am saying that who we think we are, when we have all these like identities we put on ourselves, like this is who I need to be, like I'm the good daughter, I'm the I am the consistent person, I'm the good partner, I'm the good good at work, good at blah blah blah, like all these things, right? Or I'm really bad with time or I'm really bad at this and really good at that and kind of okay at this, and like all these things that we have of ourselves, those are identities, right? Or like this is who I am, like I am this thing and this thing and this thing, XYZ, like these are my three most like top identifying factors, those kind of things that we would use to describe ourselves and our attributes and like how we show up in the world. Those things are from the head. They are from the ego. They are not who we are in our soul when we are dropped into heart, womb, root. They're just not. It's not the same thing. And when we get out of the head identities and we get into the body identities, whoo, that's where things change. That's where we feel different. That's where we are able to get out of the conditioning of the world that we don't want to be part of. That's when we're able to get out of that dissociative like mind scramble. Oh my God, sorry for that background noise that came through. Well, that's where we're able to get out of all these things we don't want to be, who we're not, as we come into embodiment of who we are, right? Okay, so we do this work for homecoming, for embodiment, for anchoring into ourselves, to find who we are, to come home to who we are. Who am I? If you'd asked me that 10 years ago, my answer would be so different to you than what it is right now. Because right now I would say, I'd give you a little bit, I'd say what I said at the beginning of this video. And then I'd say, and I'm here, I'm a human. I'm on this earth, doing this work, walking this path. I don't really have other identities I hold strongly. And that's peace. That is such peace, to not have like so many identities and things and ideas about myself that I hold on to strongly. A lot of my identity in the past would have been tied up in like trauma and pain. I'm just like, yeah, no, those things aren't who I am. Those things really have almost no connection to, they have no connection to my daily life anymore. They're just like a thing from the past, right? That's peace, that's freedom. That is what I want for you when you come into work with me. That's what I want. That is my highest vision I'm holding for everyone I work with, is that the pain that they often like bring into our work together, and my clients bring into our work together, that by the time we're finished, however long that is, a lot of people, we go deep. A lot of people end up working with me for a year or more, which is such an honor. I mean, I love getting to walk with my amazing clients on their journeys. It's such an honor. It is truly such an honor. And by the time that we're done, like chills through my body, because it's just every time I think about the honor of getting to do the work I do, it's kind of overwhelming, in a good way. But by the time we're done, my greatest hope and intention is that you feel more at home in yourself, that you feel more at home and like, this is who I am. And all these things that I thought I was, they're not who I am, and they're not taking up space in my brain anymore. And if they try and creep in for a second, I know that they're not who I am, and I can laugh at them with love and like push them out again and just be like, go away. You're not who I am. So that's another reason we do this work, is peace, 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 to be at peace in your heart, to be at peace in your mind, to be at peace in your body. We do this work for health as well, honestly, health of all kinds. My background is in physical disease. And so a fair amount of my clients come to me because of my story and my background with healing myself from chronic illness. And we're wanting to work with the spiritual and energetic components of health. So it's not the same thing as going to a doctor or anything like that. Of course it's not. What this work is, like where health comes into shamanic work and soul work, is if our soul and our spirit is not healthy, and if we are not in our bodies, so why, like, our bodies are not going to be at their optimal state. If I'm floating around up here, my body is like abandoned. My body is like, where's my person? And like in freeze or survival or fight or flight, like all of these things, like in activation. And not literally, like when we're literally floating above ourselves and we're not in our body, or to the side of ourselves or whatever, and we're not in our body doesn't have life force juice going into it. It doesn't have as much as it should. And that affects our health, that affects our vitality. When we have soul fragmentation or soul loss, not all of our energies in our body, part of ourselves might be sitting 20 years back, part of ourselves might be sitting 3 generations ago with the ancestral lineage, you know, stuck in something that happened back then that's still impacting the line, and our energy is back there with them. Part of ourselves could be stuck in another lifetime, right? If these parts of our soul, of our energy if we're not integrated, if our soul is not in its wholeness, fully home in the body and itself, we are like, how can our body be at optimal health? It doesn't have all of its energy. It doesn't have all of the literal life force, vitality, like boom, boom, like whatever energy. I love the sound effects I just tried to make there. I know it didn't really make any sense, but they're kind of funny. We don't have it in us. Like literally, it's sitting in our body. Like, of course that's going to impact our overall energetic health and our body's vitality. So we do this work for our health, for like all layers of our health: physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. We do it to come home to ourselves, for peace, for homecoming, for embodiment. We do this work to live. We do this work to live. When we are living up here in the head and all this conditioning and all these like mind viruses and all this crap that sits in our head, in our mind, we're not really living. That's why so many of us are disembodied and all around ourselves, and we're not in our bodies. It's because the mind is so painful to be in that then we can't even get further into the body. And then we get into the body, and if the mind is still painful, the body is still painful, because our mind is impacting our body and thinking all these negative thoughts about ourselves or our body or our lives or whatever it is. And we're not fully living. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for me. That's why I got called to this. We do this work to come alive, to live to our fullness, to live in our fullness. A lot of us, those of us who are called into this kind of work, is, well, we do this work for our lineage. We do this work for ourselves, all versions of ourselves who have ever lived. And for all of our ancestors in our lineage, we do this to clear karma. We do this to clear old patterns and beliefs and pains. Because for whatever reason, and I could give you a lot of different reasons that I personally believe, but I'm not going to in this video. That's again, another topic. For whatever reason, some of us come into into families and lifetimes where we are aware of the pain and the weight and the heaviness, the burdens that that lineage is carrying, and we hold it. Like we become the holder of the pain, right? We do this work to clear it. You know, for whatever reason, some of us come in with a soul contract to do that clearing work for the lineage we're born into. I know I did. And so we do this work to do the clearing, because that's what sets us free. And setting ourselves free, that's usually the first reason, set ourselves free. I mean, we're all innately a little bit selfish, right? I mean, I'm the only person who can ever live in this body. You're the only person who can ever live in your body. Like there is an innate selfishness to taking care of ourselves. But then as we get deeper into the world, into this work, we do it for everyone we love too. We do it for our family. We do it for our descendants. We do it for everyone who came before us who couldn't do it. And it's an honor. Sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it sucks. Don't think I'm not acknowledging that, but it's an honor. It's also an honor to get to do this work, to get to, yeah, be the pattern breaker for the lineage. It's pretty cool to get to do. And then we do this work to connect to something bigger than ourselves. When we are pulled into shamanic work, specifically, this ancient work that lives in the memory of our cells, DNA or lineage, right? When we're pulled to shamanic work, the one thing that I found in common with everyone I've ever worked with or connected to on this path, we're called to know, to have a connection to something bigger than ourselves, because we know that we are just one little tiny wheel in the cog of life. Just one tiny little piece of dust, speck of dust in the universal matrix. And we want to understand a little bit more about that. We want to feel that connection to more. Understand that connection to more. And that connection to more also helps us understand ourselves better. I was trained by a star shamanic practitioner, which is not super common. Star shamanic work is, I was taught how to connect into the stars, obviously, and the dimensions that exist around us. And the dimensions that exist around us go a hell of a lot further than the fifth and seventh dimension. I love fifth and seventh. I work with those dimensions pretty much every day. But what exists around us goes an infinite number of dimensions further than that. And I was taught, I did an intensive apprenticeship into understanding that and learning how to connect into the dimensions that exist so far beyond the human that it doesn't really make, like, you can't really fully logically process it. It's a felt energy, it's a felt understanding, it's a soul understanding. And the star work that I do, even just for myself, even just the star work I've done for myself, has brought me so much deeper home to this body. And when I do star work for clients, same thing. The intention, if I'm going to go that far out, it's because what is it that is lost, however far out it is, that will help this person come deeper into the home of their body and their soul and their life here. Because why ever you're here on this life, or in this life, on this earth, it's for a reason. And I know that not every single human on the earth necessarily agrees with that, or believes in that, or would share that belief system. But those that do, that know there's a reason, there's some reason I'm here. And I want to live more fully. I want to be more at peace. I want to come home to myself. I want to understand the great, creative, immense, beautiful power of my womb. For the women, that womb space is the most spiritual aspect of ourselves, and also the most literal human physical part of ourselves as well. I mean, the duality there is, of course. But for those who do feel that like there's a reason, yeah, there's a reason. I want to understand more about it. I want to come home to myself. I want to understand why I'm here. What is my purpose? Not the purpose to do, but the purpose to be. Those are the people who connect, who feel the calls of the DNA, calls of the cells, the calls of the lineage, pulling them forward into this shamanic soul womb work, the kind of work I do. So why do we do this work? Really, at the end, when you're really called into this work, we do this work because you can't not do it. On some level, you're like me. You can't not do it. And for you, can't not do it might not mean that like spirits, every time like spirits, like you have to, like this is your work to do, to offer, to walk this path every day with every single person who we send your way. But on some level, some aspect of spiritual shamanic healing work, coming home to your soul, coming home to your body, coming home to womb, is something that you can't not do, because it's part of the journey to becoming deeper, more deeply embodied in yourself. And you just cannot do it. It's as simple as that. I know that as humans, we want things to have like these deep points. Like that was the point of this thing. I know, God, I've done this so many times. Like, what was the point? And like killed myself, like going over and over, like, well, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point? What's the point? Right? Sometimes the point is just that you needed it. That's the point. That was the point. Your soul needed it. Your mission on earth needed it. Your lineage needed it. You needed it. Your human needed you to come out of the brain a little more into the body, or a lot more into the body. So, if you are called, if you're feeling this, if you've listened to this, and you feel the resonance, like, yeah, it's time to come home. It's time to come home. It's time to learn peace. It's time to become whole in all ways in myself. I invite you to come join me in this world. Maybe you join me for a soul retrieval, and we did a soul retrieval with me is 3 sessions. I do a lot of journey work for you. We do a lot of work together to get your soul as whole and connected and home in your body as you're ready for. And I say as you're ready for it because we can only connect in as far as deep as your body's, your body, your soul, your energy is what it's ready to integrate. That's why this is a process. So you might come into my space for soul retrieval. You might come in for womb school, my 12-month membership, where we connect in with the womb together every week. And every month you get access to go through and learn and connect in with the 12 rites of womb alchemy, shamanic womb alchemy that I teach. And there's an online portal where you go receive 1 rite per month for the 12 months. And then every Wednesday we get together and we do womb work as a group. It's a really beautiful sisterhood. Or maybe you are actually really feeling called to learn shamanic work, whether it's just for yourself or you and your family, or whether you feel called to learn this work and embody it and maybe bring it out into the world and share it with others at some point in your own practice. Well, I do have a group apprenticeship that will be starting this summer and going for 12 months, 12-month group apprenticeship. We meet about 3 times a month, and it is open for enrollment. It is my apprenticeship I call the Akashic Womb Shamanism Apprenticeship. It is deeply, deeply womb connected. It is deeply, deeply, of course, spirit connected. It's a shamanic apprenticeship. And it's all about coming home to yourself, your soul, and your womb, your body, all parts of you. So if any of that is calling you, please feel free to reach out. I'll have links either under the YouTube video or on the show notes of the podcast, however you are listening or watching. We do this work to come home to ourselves. We do this work because we can't not do this work, because we are called to it, because our soul knows that there's something that we are ready for, ready to align to, ready to become. And it's sacred. It's so sacred. It's so beautiful to do this work. And it's an honor. It's a privilege. It's an honor and a privilege to get to share it and teach it and support others through it for me. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for sitting here with me in this conversation. I would love to hear your thoughts. What would you add to my list, my explanation of why we do this work? I'd love to hear. So please feel free to comment, let me know. Yeah, let me know if this has been helpful. Love to hear. I always love to hear from the community, from everyone that I get to connect with. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and please don't hesitate to join me if you are called to work with the Soul Retrieval Womb School or apprenticeship. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sending you blessings, sending you love. And so it is.